Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. A couple of years ago, I got together with a company called IBC, and we developed a really nice, thick blade and back iron that would, when put in an old Stanley plane, would really improve the performance to where it would perform as well as a premium plane. In fact, if you want to come in here and have a look at this, compare the two. There's a typical Stanley number 4 with the original equipment, blade and back iron. And then in comparison, there's our IBC blade and back iron. Blades on these were usually around 75 to 85 thousandths of an inch thick. This one is 140 thou. Super thick, stable, just absolutely fantastic. Now, here's the problem. For some reason, a lot of folks are afraid to put a file to their plane, even though it's going to improve it and make it better. And I'm talking about the throat. In about 60% of the cases, you're going to have to go in and open the throat up in order to get this extra thick blade to project. But there's another reason why you would want to do that anyway. If you turn the plane over, or actually before we even do that, let's take a look and see what the function the throat actually has in stock removal. I'm going to use this chisel to represent the blade in a plane. And my square is going to represent this part of the sole of a plane, this edge right here, just ahead of the blade. As you move the two of them closer together, that part of the sole acts to support the wood fiber so that as the blade is starting to cause it to lift up, the sole holds it in place and you're able to cut it nice and clean without any tear out. That's the thought anyway. Well, if your plane looks like some of these, now these are some fairly old, this plane would date back to at least 110, maybe even 115 years. But you look at that throat, okay? See that? It's chipped, it's fairly worn. That's not going to do the job that we're talking about because it's probably not going to touch the wood until it gets back in here somewhere. As opposed to looking at this plane that I've refurbished, I've gone in and I've filed the throat to get it open enough for this blade to project, but I've also made it nice and square and straight so that it lines up or mates up perfectly with the blade. Now I don't have it closed up tight. That would be a fairly normal setting. If I was using this to work on figured wood, I'd have that throat opening would be 1/4 of that gap. But because I've gone in and filed it and straightened it, I would be able to do that. You're not going to be able to do it with some of those first examples. We'll look at this one. Here's another bad example. It's just use and abuse is going to cause that to be less than what you want, which is nice and crisp along this line. So what do you have to do? First of all, if you're afraid of working on your own plane, you can usually pick one of these up off of eBay for $20 or less. They're not expensive. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them out there. So experiment with somebody else's first if you want. But when you are ready, all you have to do, we'll take this one as an example. Remove the lever cap. Take the blade and back iron out. You don't have to take it, well, I'll take this off just in case, but I don't think I'm going to bump it into it anyway. In fact, I know I wouldn't. I normally do a lot more to the plane before I get to this stage, but I'll just show you how easy it is. I'm going to set this in the vise, upright. Hold it, but don't clamp it with excessive pressure. You don't want to break it. And it's in a metal vise, you could snap that casting. It's not that strong. Choose a sharp file. Now when you do this, what you want to make sure is, you want to come over here, frick, and shoot your camera this way. You want to make sure that you're keeping this edge either square to the sole or slightly tipped forward but not down. You want the last part of the sole to be touching the wood fiber just ahead of the blade. And when I do this, I'm always moving the file laterally as I file. It's best to actually have a file that has safe edges. You'll notice that this one, Jake, gonna grab the file for me that's in my yellow case. This file has teeth on the outside edge, on both edges. So if you're not careful, you may end up making the mouth wider this way, and we don't need that. We just need it wider, in this case, up and down. So, okay, here's a safe file. There's no teeth on the outside edges. So I don't have to worry about going up against the side and cutting. So what I would do is I would actually twist the file a little bit like this, bearing down on the inside corner. Did you find that file? It's sharper than this one. Twist a little bit like that as I file and move laterally, and that causes it to cut down in here a little bit. You want to avoid, if you don't, you may end up with a little bit of a dish in there, and I don't want that. So I'm always moving laterally, so I don't leave a mark in one spot. And then once you get it cleaned up a little bit, you can go in with a felt tip marker and you can color it. Now the reason I do that is if in going back and checking, what I would do at this stage, I would take the plane out of the vise and I would hold the blade in there and see, do I need to remove a little bit from the left side, the right side, the middle, whatever. But by having that marker on there, I can now go in and I can see exactly the area that I have filed. And don't go too far. Do a little bit, check it. Do a little bit, check it. You're not going to ruin the plane. Chances are you're not going to ruin the plane. And like I said, if you do, $20 will get you another one. But I haven't seen anybody make it so that they couldn't restore it and get it to work. Just open it up enough so that you can project your blade. I open it up so that I can have, I could easily pull a shaving that might be 4 or 5 thousandths of an inch thick at the widest. And of course I want to be able to close that throat up so I might be able to pull a 1/2 thou shaving. But that's all there is to it. And the end result is you can end up with, whether it's your grandfather's old plane or an eBay special, you can end up with a plane with a premium blade and back iron in there that will perform as well as a brand new premium plane that would cost you 10 times the amount of money. Great fun doing it. I don't spend more than an hour on any of these. I'm not refinishing the handles. I'm just dealing with the important surfaces, the face of the frog, contact points where the frog meets the sole, the throat, and then finally cleaning up and flattening the sole. The blade comes almost ready to drop in a plane. Maybe 30, 40 seconds of honing and it's ready to go. All right. Any questions, you're welcome to drop us an email on RobCosman.com and we'll certainly try to get back to you as quick as possible. All right. Enjoy your time in the shop.